Telepaths. Of all the mutant abilities ever recorded, few are as simultaneously terrifying and awe-inspiring as telepathy. Professor Charles Xavier, the most powerful telepath on the planet, built an entire movement around this ability, using it not as a weapon, but as a bridge between humans and mutants. But the ability itself is far from gentle. The ability to reach into a person's mind, read their deepest thoughts, plant false memories, or shut down their consciousness entirely makes telepaths arguably the most dangerous class of mutant in existence. Jean Grey demonstrated this at the highest possible level, her telepathy eventually merging with the cosmic Phoenix Force to give her a mental reach that extended across galaxies. Emma Frost showed the colder, more calculated side of the ability. A woman who weaponized telepathy with surgical precision, reading enemies and allies alike without a trace of hesitation or remorse. At the highest levels, a powerful telepath doesn't just need to be in the same room as you. One moment you're yourself, the next your beliefs, your loyalties, even your memories belong to someone else entirely. No army, no fortress, no security system in the world can protect you from someone who can simply walk into your mind and change who you are entirely. Xavier proved it could be used for good. Frost and Grey proved it did not have to be. Elemental controllers. Some mutants draw their power from the world around them. The wind, the rain, lightning, fire, ice, and earth itself. Storm, born Aurora Monroe, is perhaps the most iconic of this class. A woman who commands the full force of the atmosphere with a calm authority that makes it all more terrifying when her composure breaks and the sky breaks with it. She has grounded entire armies with a single storm and been worshipped as a goddess by people who had no other explanation for what they witnessed. Iceman, despite spending years being underestimated, is an Omega-level mutant capable of freezing matter at an absolute molecular level. He doesn't just create ice, he becomes it, his body converting entirely into living organic ice. And then there is Pyro, who cannot generate fire but can control any flame within his vicinity with complete mastery, turning something as ordinary as a cigarette lighter into a force capable of leveling a building. What makes elemental mutants particularly fascinating is how deeply their abilities reflect their emotional state. Grief becomes a storm, rage becomes an inferno, and calm becomes an eerie, unnatural stillness. In a world humanity believes it has tamed and conquered, these three are a reminder of just how wrong that assumption is. Physical enhancers. At first glance, physical enhancers might seem like the most straightforward of all mutant types, but to dismiss them as simple is to fundamentally misunderstand what peak physical enhancement actually looks like. Wolverine is the defining example, a man whose skeleton has been laced with indestructible adamantium, whose retractable claws can cut through virtually any known material, and whose sensors are sharp enough to track a target across a city by scent alone. He is not the biggest or the strongest, but there are very few things on Earth that can put him down and keep him there. Colossus represents the other end of the spectrum, a man who transforms his entire body into organic steel, making him one of the most physically imposing forces the X-Men have ever fielded. Beast, Dr. Hank McCoy, adds a paradoxical dimension to this class. A man of extraordinary intellect, whose mutation gave him superhuman agility, strength, and reflexes, moving with the speed of a predator while simultaneously holding multiple doctorates. In a world full of mutants who can bend reality and command storms, these three serve as a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous thing in the room is the one that simply cannot be stopped by conventional means. Shapeshifters. Shapeshifters operate in the shadows of the mutant world, and that is precisely what makes them so dangerous. Mystique, Raven Darkholme, is the gold standard of this class, a woman who has spent decades infiltrating governments, military organizations, and intelligence agencies by simply becoming whoever she needed to be. She has started conflicts by impersonating world leaders, dismantled operations from the inside, and walked out of maximum security facilities wearing the face of a guard. What makes Mystique particularly formidable is her patience. She is a trained assassin and strategist who uses shape-shifting not as a trick, but as the foundation of a long game her enemies rarely see coming until it is far too late. Morph takes the ability in a different direction. More fluid, more theatrical, capable of assuming not just appearances, but mannerisms and voices with an accuracy that goes beyond mimicry into something closer to method acting at a biological level. Unlike most mutant abilities that announce themselves loudly, shape-shifting is defined entirely by concealment. A shapeshifter doesn't just defeat their enemies. They make their enemies doubt every single person around them, and that paranoia alone can bring down entire empires. Energy manipulators. Energy manipulators sit in a unique space in the mutant world because their abilities blur the line between biology and physics in ways not fully understood. Magneto, Eric Lensherr, is the most powerful and most feared of this class. A man who controls electromagnetic fields with a mastery so complete that he has pulled the iron from a man's blood, torn a submarine from the ocean floor, and repositioned an asteroid from orbit. He doesn't just use metal as a weapon. He uses it as an argument that humanity's grip on the world is far more fragile than it believes. Cyclops channels energy as concussive optic blasts of incalculable force, beams that have punched through mountains and that he controls with nothing more than the angle of his gaze. His brother Havoc absorbs and releases ambient cosmic energy in devastating plasma bursts, with a power output that at full release can level everything within a significant radius. What makes this class particularly dangerous is that some energy manipulators become harder to stop the more force you throw at them. The lesson most enemies learn far too late is that pressing the attack is exactly what they want you to do. Telekinetics. Where telepaths work in the invisible world of the mind, telekinetics makes their power known in the most dramatic way possible. Jean Grey sits at the apex of this class, a woman whose telekinetic ability became something beyond classification when merged with the Phoenix Force, allowing her to manipulate matter and energy at a cosmic scale. Psylocke Elizabeth Braddock demonstrates the precision end of the spectrum, a trained warrior who uses her telekinesis with the discipline of a martial artist, creating focused blades of psionic energy sharp enough to cut through solid steel and targeted enough to strike specific points within a person's nervous system. Cable, Nathan Summers, was born with telekinetic potential that should have been virtually limitless, and even suppressed by the techno-organic virus consuming half his body. He remains capable of feats that few mutants alive can match. In the right hands, the ability is a scalpel. In the wrong ones, it is a weapon with no equal, and there is no environment in which it does not present an immediate threat. Regenerators. Regenerators represent something humanity has chased since the beginning of recorded history: the ability to not die. Wolverine is the most famous example. A man who has survived gunshots, explosions, and injuries that would be instantly fatal to any ordinary person. His body repairing damage almost as fast as it is inflicted. The adamantium bonded to his skeleton means the healing factor works in concert with an already indestructible frame, making him one of the hardest things on Earth to permanently remove from a fight. Deadpool, Wade Wilson, possesses a healing factor widely considered even more extreme, capable of regrowing entire limbs and recovering from injuries that Wolverine himself might not walk away from as quickly, though his accelerated regeneration came at the cost of his cancer spreading to every cell in his body simultaneously. Sabretooth, Victor Creed, rounds out this class as Wolverine's dark mirror, a man with nearly identical regenerative capability, but none of the restraint. His healing factor enabling a brutality sustained across more than a century of violence. For all the advantages this ability provides, it carries a quiet psychological cost that, unlike wounds themselves, never fully heals. Tech-savvy mutants. Not every mutant reshapes the physical world with raw elemental force. Forge is perhaps the purest expression of this class. A mutant whose ability is not control over machines, but an innate superhuman intuition for how they work and how to build them. So deep that he can design technology that would take conventional engineers decades to conceptualize, sometimes in a matter of hours. He built a device capable of permanently suppressing mutant abilities, a creation that haunted him for years, and the fact that he did it almost intuitively speaks to how dangerous this kind of ability is when pointed in the wrong direction. Cable operates in this space as well, his techno-organic physiology giving him a direct neural interface with technology. He doesn't just use machines, he communes with them, processing information and interfacing with systems at speeds no purely biological mind could match. In a world that grows more dependent on technology every single year, infrastructure, military systems, and communication networks all become extensions of their will, with nothing more than a thought. Reality warpers. If there is one class of mutant that keeps every other mutant awake at night, it is the reality warper. The Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff, demonstrated the full scope of this ability when, in a single moment of grief, she rewrote the entire mutant population of the planet with 3 words. Millions of mutants lost their abilities overnight, not because of a weapon or a virus, but because one woman decided the world should be different. Legion, David Haller, the son of Charles Xavier himself, contains within his fractured mind hundreds of distinct mutant personalities, and among them, reality alteration so powerful that his very existence creates distortions in the fabric of the world around him. Franklin Richards, the son of Reed and Sue Richards, is widely considered the most powerful mutant ever born. A child who has created and sustained entire pocket universes as a causal expression of ability he has not yet come close to fully developing. The terrifying truth about reality warpers is that there is theoretically no ceiling to what they can do, and no other mutant class makes the case more clearly for why unchecked power without emotional grounding is the most dangerous thing in existence.